snowmobile accident Saturday afternoon. The call came in just before 5 p.m. The Vilas County Sheriff's Office said that the snowmobiler hit a tree along a curve on Trail 15 near Sweet Fern Lane in the town of St. Germain. First responders worked to save the life of the snowmobiler, but they were pronounced dead on the way to the hospital. The person has not been identified, and the accident is still under investigation. And with the warm weather in Wisconsin this week and snowmobile trails already running with minimal snow over the weekend, trails are now closed in many counties, including Marathon, Portage, Taylor, Wood, Lincoln, and Langlade.
Brown, Calumet, Door, Kewanee, Manitowoc, Oconto, Outagamie, and Winnebago counties have all closed their snowmobile trails as of this morning. This made for a very short snowmobile season, between 1 and 2 weeks in many areas. When you fill out your tax forms this year, the Department of Natural Resources is asking you to consider a donation. National Heritage Conservation Bureau Director Drew Feldkirchner says it's a great way to help rare plants, animals, and natural places in Wisconsin. Feldkirchner says each dollar donated is matched by the DNR and used to apply for grants that require match funding. To make a donation, look for Endangered Resources in the donation section of your Wisconsin income tax form. The City of Green Bay proposes to work with Green Bay Area Public School District to turn Elmore and Tank Elementaries into residential housing and to swap land with the school district. The city's Parks Committee may vote on the proposal Wednesday. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
The Bucks beat the Heat. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks were down by 10 at the half, but came back strong in the fourth quarter, defeating the Miami Heat 120-113. Giannis and Damian Lillard were limited, but that opened the door for players like Kyle Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr., known as Kuz and Scoot. Doc Rivers.
I think Scoot scored a couple of times, then Kuz gets a rebound, breaks out, creates a basket, then Scoot goes back to it. Just gives us a lot of speed, and we try to make sure we have one roller, and I think it's a good fit.
The Bucks head to Houston to play the Rockets tomorrow night. College hoops, the Badgers now 21-6 after losing to Oregon. In overtime Saturday, they host Washington 8 p.m. tomorrow night at the Kohl Center. Marquette is at home tomorrow night against Providence. The Golden Eagles have lost 4 of their last 6 games. And the Milwaukee Panthers losing to Robert Morris 72-59. Robert Morris in first place in the Horizon League. The Panthers dropped to 5th. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
This is your local civic media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly cloudy tonight, maybe a stray sprinkle or shower, and a low in the upper 20s. Partly sunny and staying mild for tomorrow, high in the low 40s. A rain-snow chance Tuesday night and Wednesday. Temps will stay much above average through the rest of the week. It's 46 right now.
Max Inc. on Civic Media with Mike and Wendy from Sunspot.
Can you imagine the mosh pit on the bridge that could happen?
Oh, well, that's how the original series was when they moved the camera. Whenever like the red alert,
Right. Yeah.
that was the mosh pit.
Yeah.
And everybody had to like fake like
Right.
Lean
left,
great.
lean right. Yeah.
Join us for all the fun with Max Inc. on Saturday nights, 6 to midnight, across the Civic Media Radio Network and on the Civic Media app.
The Todd Alba Show.
Elon Musk putting in so much money that it drowns out other people's voices to decide who our next Supreme Court justice is. Whether or not you're going to vote Republican or Democrat or Schimmel or Crawford, your voice is getting drowned out by Elon Musk, a guy who has no business in Wisconsin. And you don't think that Brad Schimmel is going to be in Elon Musk's pocket? It's going to affect us in Wisconsin.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Todd Alba.
Hey, everybody, join us next time. Our old friend Luke Mathers is back for a Tuesday Tangent with Lukester. We'll find out what's grinding his gears.
Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Nite with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy who believes in an eye for an eye, but only if they're lowercase, Pete Schwaba.
Welcome to Nightlight, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Monday, everybody. Thank God the weekend is over so we can get back at it and talk about the things we love to talk about in our lives. Movies, TV, comedy, theater, sports, all things entertainment here at Nightlight. Finally, we are back on the air after a long, arduous weekend. And it's beautiful today. It's like 50 degrees. Conrad, why aren't you wearing shorts?
That's a good question.
Yeah, come on, man.
I was going to, but then I realized it was going to be colder at night, so I was like, probably shouldn't do it yet.
Colder at night?
Just yet.
Because when I was here last week, there was like 3 feet of snow right next to the cars out here. It's gone after one day. That's so amazing.
You know, it's funny. I went and visited a friend last night, and his driveway was kind of full of snow, so I had a hard time getting over it. He's like, I'm not going to shovel. It's just going to melt tomorrow anyways.
That's how I was. I had a friend come over on Saturday, Nathan Deming, who came over. We had a screening on Saturday of his film February, which he talked about here last week. So I kind of had to shovel the stairs, which was frustrating because we were gone a lot. And so I just didn't even bother. I knew it was going to warm up. But Nathan's coming over. I don't want him to fall and break his coccyx right before his big screening. So I had to shovel a little bit, but that's all right. Yeah, it's beautiful today. And guess how I spent the day knowing it was so beautiful outside? Inside doing absolutely nothing.
There you go.
Except prepping this show. That's how worn out I was from the weekend. It was a fun weekend. We had our Christmas party for Civic Media here in Northeast Wisconsin. And Sage and Aaron came up from Madison. That was fun. And Jacqueline. And we had the whole Northeast Wisconsin crew here down at the Heights. Boy, what a cool place that is, huh?
I never went upstairs. That's awesome up there.
I think I had a burger there once, but the spread they put out was like,
it was really good.
Really good and, pretty healthy, which no argument there, but really fun to see everybody. A great time. That started my weekend. And then on Saturday, I introduced Nathan's film at the Mariner Theater up in Marinette. We probably had about 30 people show up, which isn't too bad. Had a nice Q&A. The film went over really well. And then I got in the car and drove to Stevens Point to see my daughter. Pardon me. Which was phenomenal. They had a show in the theater. It was great. We got to hang out. And here's okay, this is true sickness at its best. The next day we went out to eat, my wife, my daughter, and I. We're about to head back to Marinette. I decide I need a chocolate shake in the world's worst way.
Okay.
Just to kind of nurse on the way home. It's a 2-hour drive, So we go to Cold Stone, and there was one person working, and there were about 12 people in line in front of us. That did not stop me. We were there for 30 minutes. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
It was true, just addiction at its best. I needed a chocolate milkshake.
Could have just went to McDonald's and got one of theirs.
No way.
You were determined for the Cold Stone.
I needed some kind of designer milkshake. I'm not going to McDonald's when I have a milkshake a year, right? But my wife and my daughter are both just standing there rolling their eyes waiting for me. But when you're doing the driving, I can call those kind of shots. I can say, I'm getting a milkshake. And then, of course, they both ended up getting something, too. But, oh, my God, it was a little ridiculous. I don't wait in line for anything. I don't wait in line to get into nightclubs, restaurants. I don't care how good the food is. I've never had food that was good enough for me to take 45 minutes waiting for a table. I just wouldn't do it. Oh, but I waited 30 minutes for a milkshake.
I've had the Cold Stone one in Appleton.
Yeah.
And I agree. It'd be worth it.
It's good stuff.
It's good.
If you're not in a hurry.
Yeah.
Now, if she had said it's going to be 30 minutes, I would have turned around and left. I didn't know that, though.
Yeah.
I got the family of five kids in front of us, probably all under 5 years old, and the kids are taking their time making up what they want. I'm like, oh, dear God, please. Let's go. You're the mom. Just say vanilla ice cream, 5 vanilla ice creams, and be done with it. You don't let a kid choose at 3 years old, do you?
That's their biggest decision in their life right there.
I guess it is, yeah.
They want Oreos or M&Ms.
Right. Hey, welcome to Nightlight, folks. It's great to have you with us wherever you're joining me from across this great state, this beautiful, tropical, warm state today. It's good to have you, folks. And you can catch us on, hey, how can people watch the radio, Conrad? We should really square that away.
Yeah, so on Facebook, we're under Nightlight with Pete Schwaba, WGBW or WISS. On YouTube, it's Civic Media or WGBW. And on Twitter Just Twitter.
Just Twitter.
WGBW or Civic Media.
Yeah, phone lines are open. Let us know what you're thinking, folks. 855-752-4842. You're welcome to chime in on anything we're talking about. It's just good to have you. Or text us, 855-752-4842. Same number. And text us on the app if you have the app. It's so easy to use. So I have to say, we got a great show tonight. Mariah Gates will be here. She is a published author. She has a new book that is out tomorrow. It's called Cinema Her Way, Visionary Female Directors in Their Own Words. Mariah is a film critic for RogerEbert.com. She has a great Substack. She's going to join us at 6:35, talk about her new book. We'll talk a little Oscars, which are now officially less than 1 week away. But I'm excited to have Mariah on the show. She's always a good convo. And then at 7:35, a guy from my hometown named Chad Franker will be here. Chad has a new business he's about to launch, and it's great. And I'm going to just say Chad is hoping to help cure loneliness. So we will do that. I think it's called, he sent us the information, and now I've lost it. It was in front of me. Meals with a Friend? Where is this? I am sorry, Chad. But Chad will be here at 7:35 talking about this really cool new idea he has. He's about to launch it. And it's just a way that Chad wants to give back and help people who are lonely by connecting them, doing something that's good for the community, helping people make meaningful connections, and combating loneliness. And what's wrong with that, I ask you? Nothing. So Chad will be here in the studio. Oh, it's called Meal with a Friend. That's it. Chad will be here at 7:35 in studio. He's making the drive down from Marinette like I do every day, and it will be great to have him here talking about his new, very cool business. Boy, I had somehow, don't ask me how I did it, with all my traveling and introducing a movie and going to the Civic Media Party, I still managed to watch Green and Gold, a little film you might have heard of by our pal Anders Lindwall. Went to see it last night with my mom and my wife. Very sweet story. Very, very sentimental. Have you seen it yet?
I have not.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what you think. I enjoyed it. It is very heartwarming. I will say that. And I kind of knew it wasn't going to be controversial or edgy because I knew that Culver's helped finance it. So I thought it would be sort of more of a heartwarming thing, and it certainly was. Craig T. Nelson is great. Brandon Sklenar is great. He is not in it as much as I thought, though. I will say that the actor who stole the show, in my opinion, was the female lead, Madison Lawler. She was great. And I don't know where they found her, but I was watching the film, and I felt like I had seen her in something. But she was really good. And she plays a girl living on a farm, her grandpa's farm, who has a dream. She wants to get out there and sing. And that was a huge component of the movie, really more than the Packers. So I understand why they build it as kind of a Packer movie, because there was certainly that element. But there was a lot more going on in this film, too. But we watched that. Love to know what you thought of Green and Gold, folks. If you saw it in the theaters, I think that's the only place you could have seen it so far. I do believe it is out on streaming very soon, though. We've had Anders Lindwall on the show. He was a great guest, very hardworking guy, and I applaud him for getting this film made because it's quite an achievement. Filmed in beautiful Door County, and great performances. Craig T. Nelson, Brandon Sklenar, Madison Lawler. It was Emmett Walsh's last film. That's kind of cool. But let me know what you thought of Green and Gold. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. I also saw a film last night called The Gorge. And I'll talk about that after the break, because right now, young man, we need to get to our question of the night.
Let's talk about the question.
Okay, question.
Question. Question. Pregunta. Question.
Question.
Okay, I have a question. Questions? This question.
Domanda. Question.
Question. Questions.
It's National Tortilla Chip Day, folks. Everywhere in this great country of ours, amid political turmoil, we celebrate the tortilla chip. Which leads me to our question of the night, which is, what is your favorite chip? I'll be honest, I wish I could go the rest of my life without eating a chip. I don't need them. They're not good for you. They're salty. Most of them have tons of ingredients. Having said that, what are you going to have as a sandwich? Just a pickle? I doubt it.
Some fruit?
Wow, who wants that? What is your favorite chip? That's our question of the night. Let us know. Conrad, you said you liked
yeah, it's the Frito-Lay's
something
twist.
from the Fritos family. Yeah.
Frito-Lay twist, and it's the honey barbecue.
I've had that. That's a dynamite chip.
It is so good. If I see it, I'm always like, do I get it or do I not? And then,
yeah,
there's not a chip that makes me actually do that besides that.
Okay. I'm sort of, I've got three different, it's a three-way race. Organic Doritos with no red dye 40.
Yep, the white cheddar.
White cheddar.
Really good.
It's a good chip. And you know what? In some strange way, I get sick of those quicker than regular Doritos. So I have like 10 of them. I'm fine. Because most chips, I go to town and I can't stop eating them. I polished off several Pringles last night. I do like a good Pringle.
There's so many different flavors of Pringles now. I can't even decide which one I want if I go for Pringles.
It's like the Ben and Jerry's of chips.
Yes.
So I would have to say probably, and potato chips, relatively healthy. Typically the fewer ingredients in a chip, the healthier they are. And most potato chips have like potatoes and salt. Same with Fritos. I think it's just like corn and oil and salt. And I like Fritos. But I'm going to have to noodle this for a couple minutes, maybe through the break.
So I tried to make my own tortilla chips once.
Oh, really? How'd that go?
Because I just was like, all right, I had the low-carb tortillas.
Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. A low-carb chip.
Oh, it turned out so bad.
Really? Like how? Like soggy or just tasted bad?
Tasted bad, kind of soggy. And I made the whole batch. I didn't even try it to make sure it was good.
Did you eat them all?
I got through them, but needed a lot of salsa on it.
All right. I'll give mine after the break. I'll give my favorite chip. We'll talk about, there's so much to talk about. Cocaine Bear came out on this day 2 years ago. The SAG Awards happened last night. Reacher, there's a new Reacher season out. And I did kind of like this movie, The Gorge. But we've got Mariah Gates coming up at 6:35. We'll talk about her new book. Send them her way. I can't wait to read it. So we'll do all that. We got a lot to get to. Great to have you with me on this Monday night edition of Nightlight with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW.
Are record energy costs putting a squeeze on your fixed or limited incomes? With limited incomes not keeping up with the lingering effects of inflation, you might be one of tens of thousands of Wisconsin residents who are struggling to survive in the blistering heat of summer or the bitter cold of winter. While you haven't asked for it, the Keep Wisconsin Warm Cool Fund and your local energy assistance providers are here to help. No Wisconsin resident should ever have to face the challenge of living without heat or power or face homelessness. For a hand up, apply today and call 1-800-506-5596. That's 800-506-5596. Or visit www.kwwf.org.
You know, a lot of men don't realize that it's totally okay to open up. 100% it is. Everyone's got feelings. Hey, it's Amanda with another new Wisco 411 for you. And men, you need a place where you don't feel judgment. A mental health meetup, perhaps. And that's where a fine cigar and your favorite beverage might come in. Brothers Helping Brothers is a mental health meetup for men at Prohibition Spirits and Cigar Lounge in Green Bay. They provide a safe and supportive atmosphere to allow fellow men to open up. And they do that every Tuesday from 6 till 8 p.m.
America is kept safe because the Army National Guard responds, protects, and supports our nation when it needs them most. The Army National Guard responds to disasters such as wildfires and floods. They protect us with missile defense, cybersecurity, and civilian support teams for chemical, biological, and radiological hazards. Be there for your community and your country. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service.
chip is Ranch Doritos. If I had to wager money on the number one answer tonight, I think I would probably guess people would say Ranch Doritos.
They're dynamite.
You know, they're good. Yeah, there's no question. I think if I had to go with the Dorito that wasn't the organic, you know what? Forget the organic. This is favorite chip. I'm going to go nuts here. I'm going to say Pringles.
Is there a certain...
Just the regular.
The regular.
Old
okay.
school.
You know...
The OG.
I really like their cheddar sour cream and onion Pringles.
Yeah.
Those are really good.
That I've had those. Those get overwhelming after a while, though.
Okay.
It's almost like too much of a taste. You know what? Where
Too
you
much cheddar, too much sour cream.
I think so. Like with the regular Pringles, you can suck those things down, and all of a sudden you're like, is that everything in the canister I just ate? Like, what happened there?
Do you put your whole arm down it to make sure?
I do. It's hard to get out, you know, luckily. Anna says her favorite chip is Ranch Doritos, and I do think that would be number one. But I'm gonna go Taco Doritos. If I had to pick a taco,
Yeah.
I think that was the first flavor, even before nacho cheese.
Those are really good.
They are good.
I think it was the first because they always make that retro bag for it.
Yeah, exactly. And you feel like the bag looks like a Mexican restaurant. It has like cool colors and like Monica from Mount Horeb. She's also in the 608. Says Miss Vicky's jalapeno potato chips. I've seen those and they look too fancy for me, Monica. I'm not going to lie. The bag is like a designer bag. It's overwhelming.
Those, I mean, you
But
can
I'll
get
try 'em
those at
now.
the sub shops like Jimmy
Yeah.
John's or not
Right.
Jimmy John's, but Subway.
Subway, yeah.
They have those Miss Vicky's chips, and I've tried the jalapeno one. It is really good.
Okay. As long as we get a voucher. That's a great one. And those are chips I do mean to try because I like a good jalapeno chip. But I haven't tried those yet, Monica. But keep those texts coming. And what is your favorite chip? It's International Tortilla Chip Day, folks. We could not let this question fall by the wayside. So, yeah, I saw this movie last night called The Gorge. And it's Miles Teller and Anna Joy Taylor. Is it Anna Taylor-Joy or Anna Joy Taylor? Let's go to the IMDb.
Taylor-Joy.
Taylor-Joy. Okay, Anna Taylor-Joy. They're both charged with manning a watchtower, one on the east side of a gorge, the other on the west side of a gorge. You can barely see the tower. And the contract is for 1 year. They each replace someone who kind of fills them in and says there's bad things in the gorge. There's like this mysterious fog over the gorge. And one guy tells Miles Teller, you're guarding the gates of hell. You're not trying to stop people from going into the gorge. You're trying to stop or kill anything that comes out of there. And basically what happens was it was a nuclear meltdown in the 40s. And you have DNA from plants, animals, and humans all kind of meshing together in these crazy, weird creatures. Anyway, the two people in the watchtowers are not even supposed to communicate. But they do, obviously. They fall in love. That part of it kind of drags. But it's a good film. It's a great Netflix movie. Like one of those things you could just watch at home. You don't have to go to the theater. And I feel like, I hate to say this, but when I find a great Netflix movie, I don't expect it to be perfect.
Yeah.
I just expect it to be passable and not buffer. So I really enjoyed it. And I can kind of recommend it because it's a great concept. It looks cool. Miles Teller's great. Anna Taylor-Joy is great. And they figure out a way to get over and see each other so they have contact. They break the rules. Sigourney Weaver plays the head of the whole project. It's like this mercenary group. Kind of a cool film, but far from perfect.
It sounds like a really cool story to it.
Yeah. I like what they did, like what the gorge is and what's down there. And there's water. There's an old chem lab, a missile silo. It's just crazy.
You saw that in the theaters?
No, I saw that last night on Netflix.
Oh, so it is Netflix. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to watch Nickel Boys. If I want to see the last 3 Oscar films that are on, then I've seen all 10. And I will, but it's probably going to cost me $60. And that really ticks me off.
Yeah.
$20 a pop to rent Nickel Boys and I can't remember if it was The Brutalist or I'm Still Here.
Well,
one of them.
They are doing at Marcus where you can go see the films.
Right.
And I think it's like a $25 package and you can see 5 films.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I live an hour from the closest Marcus Theater.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have that luxury, but
You could have a really late night after Nightlight.
I could do that, or I could come down early, which is what I'll probably do. I almost came down early to see I'm Still Here today. That would be a lot cheaper than sitting on my butt and renting it at home. And I have one episode left in White Lotus season 2.
Oh.
And I have a feeling this last episode, and that's how they do it on the show. Everything kind of comes to a head. And I'm kind of excited. I'm going to watch that tonight.
Well, to discuss tomorrow if you
For sure.
enjoyed season 1 or season 2 more.
You know what? It's been a couple years. I don't even remember. I remember season 1 and the characters, and I loved the guy who was on his honeymoon who couldn't let it go that he didn't have the honeymoon, the main honeymoon suite. And the guy at the front desk is messing with him. I laughed hysterically. I thought, I know it's going to sound, because I used to date her, but Sydney Sweeney was really good.
She was.
She played that really snotty brat. Steve Zahn was great, you know. What did you like better?
I liked season 2.
Okay.
There's just so many more twists and turns. You just never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And then the finale is just insane.
All right. Now you got me excited. All right. So I'll watch that later. We'll discuss that tomorrow. White Lotus season 2. Let us know if you see. What did you think of White Lotus season 2, folks? Chime in if you like. And I'll give Green and Gold a thumbs up. It was a nice movie for the area. It was heartwarming. It was beautifully shot. Great cast. I will say Craig Nelson was not particularly likable, but it worked within the story because it made his granddaughter even more likable. But you'll have to see that.
It kind of, from what I saw, it looked like in the trailer that he was going to be a grumpy old farmer.
And he is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he is. And the only thing I would say, it would be better if, like, because the Packers are such a prominent subplot and betting the farm on the Packers going all the way, it would be nice if they could get more NFL Films footage. Because they faked it really well. They did a great job. But the NFL does not mess around. They're very tough to deal with, and I know that from experience. They can be very stingy. But nice film. Check out Green and Gold. Check out The Gorge. We're going to check out one of our friends. Mariah Gates is joining me next to talk about her new book, Cinema Her Way. Visionary female directors in their own words. And then we'll talk some Oscars, too, with our friend Mariah Gates. That's coming up next. Text us. What's your favorite chip, folks? It's International Chip Day. It's the least you could do. 855-752-4842. We're coming right back after Civic Media's award-winning news team keeps you informed. This is Nightlight with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for the Todd Allball Show.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. Sunday was the final day in the 16-day-long sturgeon spearing season in the Lake Winnebago system. The Wisconsin DNR says 943 prehistoric fish were harvested this year. That doubled last year's harvest, even with poor water clarity issues. Harvest caps were not reached during the season. The 90 to 99% harvest trigger on the upriver lakes was hit, but that was late Sunday afternoon. The DNR adds that 63 fish weighing over 100 pounds were harvested this season. With the last-minute blessing of really good weather, tens of thousands of people gathered in northwest Wisconsin over the weekend for this year's American Birkenbeiner Ski Festival. Organizers say last-minute snowfall allowed them to race the entire Cable to Hayward course this year, after being forced to create a looped course last year due to inadequate snowfall. In addition to being a local favorite event for decades, the annual race has been a major economic boost for the region. Officials say it brings in about $25 million of economic impact to northwest Wisconsin. Although cannabis isn't yet legal in Wisconsin, classes on the cannabis industry are being offered at one UW campus. UW-Platteville began online cannabis education certificate programs this semester. The classes are presented through a partnership with the national cannabis curriculum provider Green Flower. The lessons touch on such topics as the business of cannabis, cannabis health care and medicine, and how to grow the plant commercially. Students can gain experience in pot growing by practicing with hemp or similar plants. Green Flower says demand for the courses is high at the 60 schools nationwide offering them. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. More odd yet not surprising news from the Kanye West camp. The New York Post reports that those close to Kanye say he is inhaling nitrous oxide, or laughing gas. Love that stuff. The Post reports that the drug was a major issue between West and recently estranged wife Bianca Censori. According to the Post, West reps are blaming his dentist, Thomas Connolly, for getting him hooked on nitrous again because it messes up his memory, adding that Connolly wants to steal millions of dollars from the rapper. How much cash does Kanye carry on him when he goes to the dentist? Yeah, I'm talking to you. One of the most famous scenes from the film Taxi Driver was Robert De Niro's character, Travis Bickle, asking that very question. De Niro recently appeared on Live with Mark and Kelly and said the whole scene was improvised. Bobby D was nominated for an Oscar for the role. Plans for a sequel to Taxi Driver were ultimately scrapped in 2013 because Martin Scorsese was unhappy with the script. Apparently, there were not enough ad-libs in the world to save it. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Night Light with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly cloudy tonight, maybe a stray sprinkle or shower, and a low in the upper 20s. Partly sunny and staying mild for tomorrow, high in the low 40s. A rain-snow chance Tuesday night and Wednesday. Temps will stay much above average through the rest of the week. It's 46 right now.
What if your business could see beyond what is and into what can be? What if you could create more impact in every decision? What if you had a partner as visionary as you are? With Bank of America, you get access to our trusted experts, real-time insights, and digital tools. So whether you run a local shop or a global enterprise, you're backed by business solutions to make every move matter. What would you like the power to do? Find out how at bankofamerica.com/banking for business. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank sponsor of FIFA World Cup 2026.
Matt Nair on air.
Oh, Randy Manor is here.
What can you do about this? Focus on what you can impact. Find the courage to speak up to your elected official. If you are silent, then your elected official at the local, state, or federal level will think you completely agree with whatever it is you're doing.
Silence equals acceptance.
Correct.
Matt Nair on air. Weekdays 10 till noon on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Dom Selvia.
Next time, we go overtime with
Paula says, I love salt and vinegar chips. Does not matter what brand. That's a serious chip connoisseur right there.
I can't do salt and vinegar.
No, it's a little overwhelming. You got to be in the right mindset.
You also cannot have no chapped lips, no cut
no
anywhere.
Cracks. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to hurt.
That is an assault on your taste buds, the salt and vinegar. You have to be as serious. That's like smoking non-filtered cigarettes. Love them both. Hey, this is exciting. I'm very happy to welcome my next guest. She's been on the show before a few times, and I just love talking to her about movies. She is a film critic and writes for RogerEbert.com, as well as her own Substack, which I encourage you to follow. But recently, I think she's publishing, I think this is her second book. It hits shelves tomorrow. Do we still have books? I don't know, but you can get her work. It's available tomorrow. Cinema Her Way, Visionary Female Directors in Their Own Words. She's here to talk about it with us right now on Night Light, Mariah Gates. Hi, Mariah.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I also love salt and vinegar potato chips, and it was very dangerous during road trips as a child because I would open the bag and my whole family would be like, "No, roll down the windows." So
Some
I
people
agree.
can handle that. Some people can't. It's like the ghost pepper of chips, I think. It is pretty intense. But I appreciate you sharing that. Are you like me? Like, I wish I didn't even, if I could scratch a food that I never craved again, it would probably be chips because there's like
Oh,
zero nutritional value.
no,
just
there's
calories.
nothing good about eating chips, but I do love them. It's it's probably the most dangerous, especially corn chips, like, chips and salsa at a restaurant. I always eat that, and then I can't eat my meal.
Your meal comes, you're already like 4,000 calories in,
Yeah.
and tons of sodium. It's ridiculous. Do you have, as a writer, when I used to drink, I would have a glass of whiskey when I sat down to write a script. Some people smoke cigars or cigarettes. Do you have something you do when you write, like whether it's eat chips or smoke or drink, or what do you do?
I usually drink water. Sometimes if it's the afternoon, I'll drink tea. I love drinking tea. I actually have spilt tea on a lot of books. But the main thing I do when I really want to get plugged in to write something is I have to find the right playlist, like whatever the vibe I'm feeling. And sometimes it takes a bit to, like today I was working on a piece and the playlist I had chosen was wrong. And I was like, this is wrong. And I had to took me out of it. I had to restart, find a new playlist. But once you hit the right, I don't know if I necessarily write to the rhythm of the music, but I definitely get into sort of a fugue state when the rhythm of the music is aligned with whatever my brain is feeling. If that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. That makes total sense. Yeah. I will say I used to write, same deal. I'd have a playlist, and then I found that I got excited about the songs, and I'm like, I'll never be able to afford these in the script. So I kind of, and I would get caught up in the music instead of my story. So I switched to jazz, which is great because it's kind of hard to follow.
Yeah.
I found it was just a great mood enhancer for whatever I was writing. But it took me like 15 years to find that. Hey, it's great to have you here. Thank you for your time tonight. How have you been?
Cold.
Yeah,
this winter has been brutal.
Absolutely. Do you have, all right, so this is exciting. You've written other books, correct?
I've contributed to other books. This
Co-written,
is my first completely me. Everything is my work. It's interviews though, so half of what you're reading is the words of the women I interviewed, and half of it is either my contextualization or questions. But it's the first book that is wholly come out of my head like Athena. It's been really difficult.
Well, congratulations. That's
Thank
so
you.
exciting. The book is called Cinema Her Way, Visionary Female Directors in Their Own Words. Tell us, how you concepted this. You write about film all the time. You're a great writer when it comes to movies. This seems like a natural book to write, but to hone in on women directors and to track them down, it seems like an overwhelming amount of work.
Yeah. Well, my specialty really is female directors, and it stems from several years worth of. It started in 2013 when I saw two documentaries that just really made me rethink the entire film canon and all of the women that I didn't even know about. The films were not about female directors; they were about women in history and women in the arts, and how they're excluded from canons. And that made me start thinking about film canons. And then the next year there were all these lists of the best films ever. And there would be one film directed by a woman. And I'm like, well, I know there's more than one out of every 100 films that are this is wrong. And then I started seeing there was a little bit of a movement of here's 10 women you should know. And it was always the same 10 women. And I'm like, well, I know there are more than 10 female directors. None of this is working out. And so all of that kind of started me writing every week. I wrote about a different woman director. That was 2014. And then in 2015, as sort of a bit of a social experiment / protest, I only watched films directed by women for the entire year, whether it was in theaters, a rewatch, older films, partly to discover the women that I hadn't seen, partly to support the women who are currently making films, and partly to show that you could do that. And I did not run out of films. I didn't even come close to running out of films. And at the time I lived in LA, so there were some weeks where I could have gone to a different theater every night and seen a film directed by a woman, whether it was a rep theater or a new film. And so after the end of that year, I had been hoping to take, my knowledge and put it into book form. And I spent years sort of dabbling on different ideas, mostly not being able to have the time because I was working at first. I was working at Turner Classic Movies, and then I was working at Netflix, and I was just doing too much work for other people, with an emphasis on films directed by women. I got a lot of films by women on Filmstruck. I marketed a lot of films directed by women when I was at Netflix. But then I quit. I quit the corporate wheel and just sort of became a full-time writer. And around that same time, an agent reached out to me and said, "Do you have a book idea?" And I was like, "I have a half-finished proposal. What do you think?"
Nice.
And originally the idea was to do small profiles of 365 different women, so like you could flip through it like a page a day calendar kind of thing, but in book form. Nobody thought that was sellable, which is probably fair. But Rizzoli was interested in putting out a book about women directors, and they found out that I had this interview column that I do for RogerEbert.com where I interview a woman every month. And they were like, "Why don't we combine those two and do interviews? And then that way it's the thing that you're already kind of known for and a strength of yours, and you're still highlighting a variety of women." And so that's really the genesis of the book. But in the back of the book, there is an appendix with another 360, I think 8 names. It's supposed to be 365, but I kept adding more women that I wanted to highlight. So if you did want to do the experiment of a film a day by a different female director, I have given you some names.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're obviously, this is what you do. You're a film historian and a critic, and you know a lot more about films than most of us. What did you learn that you didn't already know?
I love that question.
Yeah.
I mean, partly I learned a lot about each individual filmmaker's process, which was really the goal. I wanted to allow them a space to talk about process, because I have found in the past that women directors are often not asked about their process. They're mostly asked, "What's it like to be a woman?" And like, that's boring. You're talking to an artist, talk to them about their art, So that was part of it. But the other thing that I found really fascinating and a little sad was I spoke to women who'd been working over 5 decades. And I talked to someone who started out in the 70s, and they talked about how hard it was to be listened to and to get their projects off the ground and to be taken seriously. And then I talked to someone who started making films 10 years ago, and they told me almost the same story. And these women didn't know they were talking about the same things. And I didn't ask them to tell me this. This is what they shared. This was their story working in the industry. And it was a bit depressing to hear, someone 50 years apart and women are still having kind of some of the same hurdles. But then there were also several women who started working later that I talked to, like women who started making films in the 90s and 2000s, who were inspired by some of the women that I spoke to who were making films in the 70s and 80s. And so it was nice to see also the way these like earlier pioneers really did influence these other women. And so there's this big conversation. In fact, the cover of the book is a Karin Kusama film, and the back of the book is a Martha Coolidge film. And part of the reason those are the two images is Karin Kusama saw Martha Coolidge's Valley Girl in theaters as a teenager, and that's how she knew she wanted to become a filmmaker, and she knew she could become a filmmaker. And so what I really loved was seeing not just the sort of sad commonalities, but the happy commonalities and the influence that these women had on each other, whether they knew it or not.
My guest is Mariah Gates. She writes for RogerEbert.com. She writes for herself. Check out her Substack. And she has a new book available tomorrow called Cinema Her Way, Visionary Female Directors in Their Own Words. Mariah, just keeping the subject about women for the time being, what, as opposed to female directors, do you find there are a lot of women writing about cinema, or more than there used to be 20 years ago, maybe, or 40 years ago?
I definitely think there is. I think there's a lot more outlets for women to write, and obviously a lot more self-publishing that's available. I think Rotten Tomatoes in particular has found a way to amplify more women who write about film or who use TikTok or YouTube or what have you. I actually used to do the social media at Rotten Tomatoes, and long before they were called out by Meryl Streep for not having enough women on the tomato meter, I actually audited their critics database, and I was like, I think you have a problem. And then a year later, Meryl Streep was like, you guys have a problem, and now it was a public problem. But sometimes that's what it takes, to get.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that it was not my boss's fault. I want to make that very clear. It was the people who owned Rotten Tomatoes at the time who did not want to address the issue. Actually, my boss at the time was the person who first hired me to interview women, because he had taken over a different outlet and was like, I want to continue helping you, amplify these voices. So he's an amazing person. And, but I think the main thing really is like, there are a lot of gatekeepers and there are a lot of specific hurdles. And most of the time it's not on, like, I don't think the people know they're doing it. They're just not noticing they're doing it. Right. It's a lot of internal bias. That's, the problem with most things. I think most things are subconscious. Yeah.
So you do the social media for Rotten Tomatoes currently, or
no? I did in 2015 when I did A Year with Women. Okay. That's when I worked there.
Do you think this is off topic, but I have noticed? I feel like films get better reviews now than they used to.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if it's critics are scared.
No, I think a lot of that has to do with people being afraid to lose access.
Yeah.
And which is another systemic issue. I think there is retaliation done by some of the studios where if you trash their previous film, they won't invite you to the next screening, things like that. So people tend to do like milder criticism or like mixed positive a lot more than they used to, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, all right. So you are a very like people read you. You've got a lot of eyes in your work to begin with.
Yeah.
Now you have this book. What do you enjoy writing more? Like, how rewarding was writing this book compared to the writing you do on a daily basis?
It was so rewarding because my favorite thing to do is interviews. I really do love finding out why people do what they do. I love sort of going deeper. And you can do that if you're a think piece writer or doing analysis, but I love hearing what the filmmaker intended, whether that's what came across or not, who knows, but I love to hear what a filmmaker intended. I love to hear the like nitty gritty. Like I went to film production school, so I know how hard it is to make like a 2-minute short, let alone, a 3-hour epic or whatever. So I love to hear those stories of how they got it together. Or in the book, there's a few different casting stories that are fascinating where, like one thing is what they wanted, but then they got someone else and then it turned out that was the right person. And some of that magic I think is really interesting.
That's so cool. All right. When we come back, I'm going to ask Mariah if she thinks more women are finding directing opportunities now. I know the numbers. I'm sure she knows the numbers, but you might be surprised at the numbers. We'll have more in just a couple minutes with writer and author of the new book, Cinema Her Way, Visionary Female Directors in Their Own Words, Mariah Gates. This is Night Light with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Make that highway run. You don't have to call me lieutenant. I don't want to be your son. The only lover I'm ever going to need is some sweet little girl's tongue.
The Pier to Swamico, 97.9.
Leadership in the Dem Party.
Six on the Civic Media Radio.
Yourself, surrounded by love, Hey, this is John Legend, and you're listening to Night Light with Pete Schwaba.
Gonna be some sweet sounds coming down on the night shift. I bet you're
From the
singing
608,
proud.
Kenneth, he's in Stoughton, says, Green and Gold was okay. With a farm background, it was inconsistent. Using horses but trying to sell a modern tractor did portray a stubborn Wisconsin farmer quite well. Well said, Kenneth. Thank you for the text. And then Laura Enright, a recent guest on the show, who's also a Chicago-based author, says, this is interesting. My discussion here with Mariah Gates about her new book, Cinema Her Way, Visionary Female Directors in Their Own Words. Mariah, so the book is available tomorrow. People can get it, I assume, on Amazon.
Yep.
Where else? Is there a mom and pop place you prefer people go?
I love bookshop.org. If you're going to order online, they help support. You can type in your local bookstore and they'll work with them.
Nice.
It should be in most local bookstores. Hopefully. I definitely would encourage getting it at a bookstore if you can. There will be signed copies eventually in MZS Press, which is Matt Zoller-Zeitz's online bookstore, the writer. Those are not in stock yet, but they will be. So if you'd like a signed copy, refresh his online bookstore, and they'll be there soon.
That's so exciting. Well, I wish you luck with the book. Well, let's talk about this for a second. I think people assume that Hollywood, they think it's this progressive, liberal place where, everybody has a voice. But I was surprised a few months ago when I read what the percentage of women who direct big Hollywood films are. I think last year, out of the 250 films made at the studio level, or the top 250, women directed something like 14 or 15%. And that was up, I think, from the year before. So I was like, oh, it's getting better. But the year before was down from the previous year. So what is going on? Do you see that getting better?
Yeah, the issue there, it's sort of multiple prongs. The data comes from, I'm sure you got this data from the celluloid ceiling, and it's this amazing survey that has been done out of the San Diego State, this research for, I think, 27 years. And it is for the top 250 grossing films, which, to put that in context, I think the 250 usually makes about $500,000. So it's actually not a huge amount. There's your film doesn't actually have to make that much to make the top 250. What it shows is a handful of things. One, the study doesn't actually take into account streaming, and a lot more streamers hire women. So the data is a little bit flawed. The studios are not hiring like they should. And if you were alive in the 80s or 90s, you might think there were a lot then, and you would be not wrong. There were a lot more in the 80s and 90s because of a group of women known as the Original Six who sued the entertainment industry. Their suit was thrown out because it was supposed to be a class action lawsuit, and some judge decided that Hollywood was not a class. However, there was so much pressure that the big studios, Warner Brothers, Sony, what have you, started hiring a lot more women. And so you saw, Penny Marshall made a bunch of studio films, Nora Ephron, Penelope Spheris, a bunch of women. Then basically it fell out of the news. And so in the 2000s, you saw a dip again. What we're seeing now is that dip has remained. But a lot of women are being hired by streamers. A lot of women are being hired by television. Like they'll make their small independent film, and then instead of going to the studios, like a lot of men get that offer, they make the jump. The women tend to make a jump into working in television, and in fact, streaming television. So it's not great, but it's not as dire as the study shows, partly because they don't take into account streaming. And I think they don't take into account streaming because the data is really based on box office, and the streamers, as you know, or probably know, don't say how many people stream. Sometimes they'll release data, sometimes they won't. Same with the television. So it's hard to get an accurate picture because the streamers withhold data in terms of streaming. So you don't know who are doing the highest grossing. Like highest grossing is kind of a hard metric now. But on my newsletter, I write about 2 to 3 usually new releases directed by women every week. So the fact is, minimum, there are 2 to 3 films directed by women being released in theaters, online, VOD, what have you, every week. And I think the problem with the study is it tends to scare people and make people think there aren't women. And the whole kind of point of my book is that there are so many women. Like even whittling the back appendix to 368 women is limiting. There, I could put thousands in there who are currently making films.
Oh, wow.
I think the main takeaway is we can't force Warner Brothers to hire women. We can't force Marvel to hire women. But what we can do is support the women who are making films and make those numbers go higher, because the higher the box office is, even if it's just a couple 100,000, that's better than, you know, not making any money at the box office. Critics can review more films by women. They tend to struggle to get some films directed by women struggle to even get 5. You have to have 5 to get a Rotten Tomatoes rating. I reviewed a film a couple of weeks ago where I was the 40th review, so it is now going to be certified fresh, but an independent film needs 40 reviews. And so I think it's important to have that data and to see that the studios are not doing a good job. But it's also, I think, more important for probably the people listening here to just support the women who are making films, to find out how they can put their money towards the projects that are being made. Because I think it's more important to focus on what is happening than things we can't change. I mean, that's what I've spent the last, I think, 10 years doing is supporting all of these women. And there's, I think, a lot more women who get to make their first film than ever before. And the struggle is always that second, that third, that fourth film. And I think the more we support that first film, it doesn't matter if you haven't heard of them before. Is it playing at a festival? Is it on Tubi? It doesn't matter. Watch it. And the more views, the more you log it on Letterboxd, the chances are that filmmaker will have some metric to show the next producer, and they'll get to make their second film. And I think that's really what
we have to do a quick news thing. Can I keep
Sure.
you for a few minutes and do a little Oscar talk, maybe some
Absolutely.
Bigelow talk? All right, fantastic. Mariah Gates is going to stick around. We'll talk more with her. Chad Franker's here in the second hour, too. Don't go away. It's Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Medicare and Medicaid, and the role of Elon Musk and his Doge office. Gas prices continue a downward trend, but it may not last. Melissa Kay reports.
Average gas prices have fallen 4.3 cents over the last week. The average today is $2.86 per gallon. This is 12.2 cents lower than a month ago and over 16 cents per gallon lower than this time last year. Officials at Gas Buddy say to enjoy the slight declines while they last. As we inch closer to March, the typical March madness will eventually take hold. With the changeover to summer gasoline, we're likely to see upward movement in the weeks ahead.
In Green Bay, gas is averaging $2.82 a gallon, down more than 5 cents, and in Appleton, you'll pay $2.83 for a gallon of gas, down 2 cents from last week. The Veterans Village of tiny homes proposed by Veterans First of Northeast Wisconsin faces yet another hurdle. The village that will provide tiny housing for veterans has approval from the city of Green Bay and Brown County to proceed at a location on St. Anthony Drive near the Green Bay VA clinic on the former site of the Brown County Mental Health Center. Some opponents have concerns about the development being close to the county's Potters Field Cemetery. Veterans First has agreed to pay for a ground survey to ensure that no one is buried on the property that they will develop. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
The Bucks winning with backups. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks won at home 120-113 over the Miami Heat. They head to Houston today to play the Rockets tomorrow night. Damian Lillard has been limited with a hamstring injury and marveled how backup guard Kevin Porter Jr. took over the game after being traded here from the Clippers.
I think, first of all, it was fun to watch. I think when you are a star in this league, a lot of times the weight of the game shifting is on you. KP scoring, from being able to see him since he was in high school to college to even, his time in the NBA, I've seen him many times have huge nights.
Kevin Porter Jr., nicknamed Scoot, on what it's been like since he arrived in Milwaukee.
As soon as I came in here, I felt very welcome, and that's big, that's huge, especially when you got people like Giannis, Dame, Doc, a winning organization, the fan base, how Milwaukee has welcomed me, and it's been beautiful, honestly, so I'm blessed to be where I'm at.
That's Bucks guard Kevin Porter Jr. with sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm Lisa Hale with WGBW News. Your news in depth. Find it in the news section at WGBW.FM.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly cloudy tonight, maybe a stray sprinkle or shower, and a low in the upper 20s. Partly sunny and staying mild for tomorrow, high in the low 40s. A rain-snow chance Tuesday night and Wednesday. Temps will stay much above average through the rest of the week. Currently, it's 44 degrees.
The Todd Alba Show.
Travi Olson joins us.
There's a hockey game tomorrow night between Canada and the U.S. Everywhere up in Canada when they were playing the game, the U.S. was being booed. Imagine how you would feel if your neighbor were constantly saying, "I'm taking your backyard." You would find that very serious. That's what's happening around the world. We are going to have no friends, period.
That is
and
so
that
well put.
matters.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Carmelo Anthony for the Bail Project.
Bad news, you've been arrested. Good news, you're innocent until proven guilty. If you can pay your bail, good news, you go home to wait your trial. If you can't, sorry, you go to jail to wait. But sure, you still presumed innocent. But since you can't afford bail, you've lost your freedom. That's not right. And that's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
John Mino and Jim Schmidt.
On Tuesday's show, we'll welcome Zane Stats, a local graphic designer, painter, and incredible mural artist.
Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Night Light with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy still not convinced computers are here to stay, Pete Schwaba.
Welcome back, folks. Great to have you with me on this Monday night. A tropical, almost balmy day here in Wisconsin today. Coming up at 7:20, Chad Franker will be here, a local boy done good from Marinette, Wisconsin, who created a business called Meal with a Friend. It's a great community builder and helps combat loneliness. Chad will be here in studio in just a few minutes to talk about that. Our question of the night is, what is your favorite chip? It is International Tortilla Chip Day, but we expanded the topic to hopefully draw more exciting answers than just tortilla chips. So join us in your love of chips. Let us know what you're thinking. And as always, you can comment on anything we're talking about here tonight at 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. All right, my guest right now, we have a few more minutes with our guest, Mariah Gates. Her book is out tomorrow. It's called Cinema Her Way, Visionary Female Directors in Their Own Words. You can buy it in bookstores, online. There will be signed copies available soon. That's exciting. Mariah, I wanted to ask you, you list a lot of the directors that you talk to in the book and that you write about. I have to admit, I haven't heard of many of them, but I've always been kind of just in awe of Catherine Bigelow. She is such a phenomenal director, and she directs films that typically, or stereotypically, you might say, guys, it seems like direct. They're Hurt Locker, Point Break. I didn't even know she did that in 1991. I think that was her first major Hollywood studio film. Zero Dark 30. I really liked the movie Detroit, and I didn't even realize she directed until I was watching the credits. Where does she rank on your list of not just female directors, but directors? She's had a pretty incredible career.
Yeah, I think she has definitely been an influence. A lot of the people I've interviewed, not for the book, but for my column, have cited her as one of the reasons they knew women could make films, or an example of the kind of films they would like to do and didn't necessarily think they could, but they saw her do it. And so they're like, okay, I can do this too. So I think she's definitely been an important figure in terms of visibility of women directing films and of women directing films that make a really big wave. Obviously, she was the first woman to win Best Director at the Oscars. And since then, there have been several and a lot more women nominated. I think she was only the fifth to ever be nominated. So Jane Campion, who is in the book, was the first woman ever to be nominated twice for Best Director. I think it'll be really wonderful when that statistic changes and we have multiple women with multiple nominations, the same way we do with men. So I think she definitely broke a really big glass ceiling with the Hurt Locker. Unfortunately, it seems like every once in a while they try to put a new glass ceiling up, but I don't think that will be successful.
I want to ask you about the Oscars, but I want to ask you, who in your book, Cinema Her Way, who did you enjoy talking to the most?
Oh, I mean, it was Gillian Armstrong. Not to dismiss all the other women who are amazing, but Gillian Armstrong directed Little Women, which is my favorite movie and has been my favorite movie since I was 8 years old, which is 30 years. And it was, I can't even believe she said yes. I literally screamed. So, and she talked to me for 3 hours, and she talked to me about the most minute things. She's like, you have seen this movie too many times. I'm like, yes, I have. Please answer my questions. So it was as wonderful as all the conversations were. It was really surreal to talk to the person who made a movie that I've loved like on a molecular level for 30 years.
That's so great.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a few minutes left. What are your thoughts? Do you have a Best Picture favorite in the Oscars?
I mean,
did the SAG Awards do anything for you?
In a perfect world, I feel like Nickel Boy should have been nominated for every Oscar. I wish Joe Mofrey had been nominated for his cinematography. I think Nickel Boy is head and shoulders above everything that came out, like literally everything that came out last year. However, of the ones that did get nominated, I do think Anora is probably going to sweep. I think mostly because The Brutalist is really long, and I don't know that everyone's going to sit through the 3 hours, or they're going to think it doesn't deserve to be 3 hours. Anora is nice and brisk. It does a lot of interesting things with tone. It really lands it. I think it's been winning so many. It won the DGA and the PGA. The one surprise that I think might happen, especially because it won the SAG Ensemble, is because for Best Picture, they do a weighted ballot. I do think Conclave is going to be like a lot of people's number 2 or number 3. And that could potentially make it the winner. That's what I think what happened with Spotlight about 10 years ago, where no one saw Spotlight winning. But I think what happened was it was probably a lot of people's number 2, and that adds up. The weighted ballot is really, or the preferential ballot is really why you get a film like in the Spotlight year, Mad Max won, I think, like 6 Oscars, and then Spotlight won Best Picture because of the chaos of a preferential ballot. So I think you could see Conclave come out, but I think Anora is probably the safest like sweep at the moment.
So you think Anora is a safe bet? How do you feel about Anora?
I really love that Sean Baker is a filmmaker who was able to follow the old school path. His very first film premiered at Slam Dance, which is the micro indie film festival, and then his most recent film won the Palme d'Or. And I don't know that that's a path any filmmaker gets to have anymore. I think because of the financing and economics of filmmaking has changed so much. So I think it's a real, I don't want to say like a career capper because he's a young man and is going to probably make another 40 years worth of films, but he's put in 20 years of like consistently good work. And I think it'd be a really great thing to see him really just sweep this year.
It's so weird. Like I saw Anora when all the hype was around it. Florida Project, which I just saw about 3 months ago, is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
I think it's a masterpiece. I liked Tangerine. I liked Red Rocket. But Anora I liked, but I don't think I liked it. Best Picture liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a weird thing. But then I noticed that Conclave, and I saw this statistic recently, the films that win Best Ensemble at the SAG Awards, something like 26 of the last 30 years have won Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah.
So I feel
and
like
that really has to do with 2 things. 1, the last 15 years with the preferential ballot, and 2, the fact that the actors make up the largest percentage of the Academy, the actors branch.
Okay.
And so the in terms of how many actors are in SAG that are also part of the Academy, that number is a lot larger than, say, the number of directors who are in the DGA who are also Academy members. So the correlation is a lot higher. And again, I do very much think Conclave is going to be probably some people's number 1, but it's going to be on a lot of people's number 2, number 3. And I think that's going to add up because it's such a crowd-pleasing film.
Right.
And there's as far as I know, nobody hates it. Like some of these films people hate, right? And so it's going to be all at the bottom.
Yes,
that film,
substance.
I don't know anyone who hates Conclave. I think everyone minimum thinks it's a fun film. And that's really helpful.
A Complete Unknown. Like I really liked it. I thought it was a really solid film.
Yeah.
And I like Conclave, but I was talking to someone recently that said, well, the big twist at the end, I mean, come on, what are they doing? I'm like, that's what made it a great film for me.
Yeah.
Like I just thought it was okay and well acted until that.
And then it's very unexpected for how pulpy the rest of the film was. Yeah. And they pull it off. Yeah.
And I haven't seen Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, or The Brutalist yet because I live in kind of a remote area. But I probably will pay the $20 to watch Nickel Boys on my TV based on what you just said.
I mean, if you can at some point somehow see it in the theater, or listeners, if you haven't seen it yet and you want to see it in the theater, that one is such a special experience and so immersive. And I think truly innovative in a way that once you see it, you'll see what I mean. And I don't think any other film in terms of artistry and innovation can touch that film. But obviously artistry and innovation isn't always what ends up being Oscar voters' favorite thing. I think this is a beautiful film. And it's not, I think a lot of people maybe are afraid because the subject matter is heavy, but it's not a heavy film. It's a really beautiful, empathetic film that is about the persistence of joy and the persistence of just life. It's an extraordinary film.
I'm so excited to see it now.
Yeah.
One other film I wanted to ask you about. Amelia Perez, 13 nominations. Did they totally lose it with the Twitter scandal?
I think they did. That's a film that was very divisive. I think not with older voters. I feel like a lot of older viewers really love the film. And I think a lot of younger viewers are more, I think, perhaps aware of the various ways that film is not, shall we say, as progressive as it seems. There's a lot of trans writers have written about why it's actually a regressive film. A lot of Mexican writers have written about how it's really a terrible version of their country. It does them no favors. But I don't know that a lot of voters cared about any of that, because they love the film and they don't care about criticism, and that's perfectly fine. That is, they don't have to read criticism to enjoy a film. That's it's everyone's prerogative. I personally did not like that film. I did not understand specifically the nomination that is the wildest to me is cinematography, because I think it's a garish film.
It's a weird looking film.
It doesn't. I don't think visually it works. Whereas when you see Nickel Boys, I think you'll see what I mean about Joe Mofrey, who did the cinematography. I think he is a poetic filmmaker and an emotional filmmaker, and does something with the camera that is so unique. And he's won almost every other award. It's really weird. He got the American Society of Cinematographers Award. He got the Independent Spirit. It's, I think, the biggest snub that came out of the Oscar nomination thing. It's baffling that he didn't get that nomination. I think he'll probably get nominated for his next film, whatever that ends up being, because he's another consistently great, innovative filmmaker. But I think maybe, I don't know about what's going on with the cinematography branch.
It'll be interesting to see what happens either way. The book is called Cinema Her Way, Visionary Female Directors in Their Own Words by Mariah Gates. You can find it in bookstores tomorrow or online. I'm sure it will be just as outstanding as everything Mariah writes. So much fun having you on the show all the time. Good luck with the book.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk soon.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Mariah Gates. Coming up next, Chad Franker, a young man from Marinette, Wisconsin, a place I call my hood. He's got a great new business that helps combat loneliness. We're going to talk to Chad about that because I thought it was really inspiring. And we'll read your texts and all kinds of fun stuff. Who knows? Maybe Conrad will do a little soft shoe. Did you bring the cane and the hat?
I did not.
Oh, come on, man. You're killing me.
I forgot it in my car.
Yeah, likely story.
I'll just have to run out there quick.
All right, we're coming right back on Nightlight with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Someone's living for her love, and I love her. I love her. I love
To the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
Are record energy costs putting a squeeze on your fixed or limited incomes? With limited incomes not keeping up with the lingering effects of inflation, you might be one of tens of thousands of Wisconsin residents who are struggling to survive in the blistering heat of summer or the bitter cold of winter. While you haven't asked for it, the Keep Wisconsin Warm Cool Fund and your local energy assistance providers are here to help. No Wisconsin resident should ever have to face the challenge of living without heat or power or face homelessness. For a hand up, apply today and call 1-800-506-5596. That's 800-506-5596. Or visit www.kwwf.org.
Every story matters, and the Civic Media Radio Network is celebrating Black History Month by honoring the powerful stories of Wisconsin's own trailblazers. Meet Reggie Jackson, the Milwaukee historian and teacher, travels the state sharing Black history while challenging what you think you already know.
Invited to all these communities around the state. These people don't know much about the African American experience, and so they asked me to come and share some of that with them, to talk about things related to African American history, race and racism, things of that nature. I've been to over 50 communities around the state of Wisconsin. People like the message that I send. They think it's credible information. It's been one of the greatest joys in my life, and it's been a great journey. And I've appreciated all of those folks that I work with in all those different communities, engaging in conversations about really important things to them.
There's a problem, feathers, iron, bargain, buildings, weights and pulleys. Feathers hit the ground before the weight can leave the air.
We have a great question tonight. It's International Tortilla Chip Day. Everything has a day. And we are putting the question out. What is your favorite chip? You don't have to limit it to a tortilla chip, folks. What is your favorite chip? Conrad's dad checked in. I love this. Oh, no, it wasn't your dad that said this. Although your dad said Taco Doritos. He says, the Taco Doritos will always be dear to my heart. But my new favorite chip is made by UTZ, the crab chip with Chesapeake Bay crab seasoning. You can't just eat just one.
I'll attest to that. Those are really good.
I don't think I've ever heard of those.
Maybe it's just a Florida thing. I don't know, but I only saw it when I went down there to visit them once, and those things were good.
All right. Did I miss? Pardon me. No, I got that one. Okay, so let's go to from the 608. Or I'm sorry, from the 818. Bridget says salted potato chips with ranch dip. Interesting. That's the first dip suggestion we've heard. You could just buy ranch chips, right? They have potato chips with ranch flavor.
Not the same.
All right, fair enough.
Well, have you heard of anything with hummus?
Listen, dude, I love hummus.
Yeah.
That is the voice of my next guest. Chad Franker is here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about a really cool business Chad has created. He's about to launch it. What is your favorite chip, Chad?
Well, I would say something that has health consciousness.
See, all right, I admire that, but that's what I was going for too at first, and then I realized if I'm going to eat chips, I'm not thinking about health. I've seen you at the gym. I see how hard you work too, so I appreciate the health thing. But AJ from the 608 says, "Hey Pete, if you can find them, Lil Baby's brand of wrap snacks are out of this world. His flavor is salt and is that supposed to be Lil Baby Ray's?
No, it's
Lil Baby. Okay. She says AJ says his flavor is salt and vinegar, barbecue, onion, garlic, and more. Yes, all together in one chip. Now that sounds like a taste explosion in your mouth. And Kenneth chimed in on the film Green and Gold. So if you have an opinion on that film, I finally saw it last night. Did you see Green and Gold, Chad?
No.
Okay. Are you a Packer fan? Yeah. And you like farming? Not to do for yourself, maybe, but just in general, it's a good thing.
I mean,
Chad doesn't really see the necessity for farming, so that's okay. All right, from the 608, Steady Eddie checking in. He says, Pete, Conrad, love chips, but we all know eating chips is not quite as bad as smoking cigarettes. The snack food manufacturers want you addicted. They don't care about your health. They want your money. Steady Eddie. Come on. Big business wants our money. Get out of here. He says, that being said, chips are delicious, if not nutritious. I like nacho cheese Doritos the best. I have a strategy where I buy 2 1-ounce bags of chips when I shop at the grocery store. That way, when I get home, I can eat 2 whole bags of Doritos and not feel too guilty. It works for me. And then in all caps, sometimes. Happy Tortilla Chip Day. Steady, hold the cheese dip, Eddie. Thank you, Steady Eddie. Keep those texts coming, folks. It's fun. Chips are fun. What's not to like about chips?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing, exactly. All right, I'm going to bring in my next guest here. I'm excited because this guy is from my hometown and where I live right now, Marinette, Wisconsin. He made the drive to be here in the studio because he has a new business that he is launching called Meals with a Friend, and it's a great idea. I absolutely love this. Chad, tell us about Meals with a Friend and tell us when it'll be officially launched.
Well, Meals with a Friend we're in the early beginning stages where we trying to get volunteers lined up with people who are experiencing loneliness and isolation. And the pandemic was the first indicator of how loneliness and isolation can impact cognitive health and mental health and a whole slew of things.
Right.
Yes.
You really did your homework. I saw where you did all this research. And is what you learned about the pandemic what gave you the idea for this business?
So retract that. I mean, so when I was 16 years old, I got hit by a truck and suffered a traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always known of the helping profession, where how community is can help build and help aid someone to be better. And
Right.
yes, and so I mean, then when I was in school to get a bachelor's of science in psychology and human development, I did an internship with the Hospice Advantage, and I was with hospice clients.
Okay.
And I sat with people that were near dead, that passed away. And I say that reluctantly because I loved it that the families respected me enough to sit with their loved ones.
Right.
But they allow me to give that to them. So, and
you saw how much it impacted.
Yes,
and
how that could impact the love of how they didn't want to have the final idea of their loved one so bedridden and
right. You talked about that too, and we'll get into this more after the news, but how community and people being there for you after your accident helped you heal and get to a place where you could create meals with a friend. So we'll talk about all of that. Chad Franker is my guest. He is he's from my hood. He's a fellow Marinette native. And don't let the fact that I remember hearing about that accident, but you should see this guy at the gym. I wish I worked half as hard or broke half the sweat you break because I see how hard you work. So we'll talk more with Chad about his new cool business called Meals with a Friend, a business that is it's just such a great idea to help others who are feeling lonely. We'll talk more about the nuts and bolts of the business and get to know Chad a little bit more after Civic Media's award-winning news team keeps you informed. It's Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
From Denmark to De Pere, this is 97.9 WGBW. This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
From local news to what's going on around the state, Civic Media's mission is to bring you real news and great conversation. For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. There's some language in Governor Tony Evers' budget that is angering some Republicans. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel is reporting Evers' budget bill recognizes same-sex marriage by replacing the terms wife, mother, father, and husband with gender-neutral language like spouse and person. In one section covering artificial insemination, the husband of the mother was changed to the spouse of the inseminated person. State Senate President Mary Felskowski said in a statement Saturday that, quote, it is disgusting to see the Evers administration attempt to erase mothers and fathers. A Green Bay man who just happens to be the 2024 NFL Fan of the Year and a huge Packers fan raised $1 million for charity. Content creator Tom Grossi started live streaming on YouTube a week ago.
We started streaming on Sunday, February 16th at 5 p.m. Eastern. It is 8:26 a.m. on Sunday, February 23rd, 2025. And we have raised $1 million for children of fallen patriots.
Grossi set a time limit of 1 week for his fundraiser and a goal of $1 million. He reached that goal with hours to spare. All of the money raised goes directly to the Children of Fallen Patriots Foundation, which provides college scholarships and educational counseling to military children who lost a parent in the line of duty. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Trust fund kid Elon Musk has drawn a lot of political criticism lately, but now he's under fire for being a bad parent from his own father. Errol Musk appeared on the Wide Awake podcast and said that his son will probably shoot him for saying this, but Elon is not a good father. This comes after rumors that Musk had fathered a 13th child, somehow with 16 women. Should probably fact check that. It's important to note that just a couple years ago, Errol Musk admitted to having a second child with his stepdaughter, who was only 4 years old when he married the child's mother, according to Rolling Stone. Errol and the girl's mom have 2 children of their own, as Musk apparently wanted his future baby mama to have playmates. For the record, Rolling Stone also reported that Elon Musk is not a fan of his father. He called him a terrible human being who has done every evil thing or crime you could possibly imagine, which is probably why they decided not to have kids together. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Night Light with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly cloudy tonight, maybe a stray sprinkle or shower, and a low in the upper 20s. Partly sunny and staying mild for tomorrow, high in the low 40s. A rain-snow chance Tuesday night and Wednesday. Temps will stay much above average through the rest of the week. Currently, it's 44 degrees.
Hey, it's Amanda with another new Wisco 411 for you, and let me tell you, being a mom is tiresome, and you need a break. So take one at Mom Prom on Saturday, March 8th at the Hilton Paper Valley Hotel from 7 till 10 p.m. Grab those old prom dresses, homecoming dresses, heck, there's somebody with a pile of bridesmaid dresses somewhere, and have fun and let loose. You could even get named prom queen. It may be called Mom Prom, but it's open to all ladies 21 and over. So head to WGBW.FM, click events, and find out more.
The Todd Alba Show.
Elon Musk putting in so much money that it drowns out other people's voices to decide who our next Supreme Court justice is. Whether or not you're going to vote Republican or Democrat or Schimmel or Crawford, your voice is getting drowned out by Elon Musk, a guy who has no business in Wisconsin. And you don't think that Brad Schimmel is going to be in Elon Musk's pocket? It's going to affect us in Wisconsin.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show, maternal mortality rates.
Tomorrow night on Night Light, we had Mike Starr, the actor from Goodfellas and Dumb and Dumber schedule. Mike had to reschedule because he has a work commitment, which often happens with actors. You have to take the money when you get it. But Mike is awesome. I cannot wait to have him on the show. But in the meantime, we have more awesomeness filling in. Dr. Kristen Lyerly will be joining us from Minnesota over the stream. I always have fun with Kristen. She's definitely a Night Light frequent flyer. And then mob expert and urban legend expert Bob Dennis will be here in the studio. So lots of fun guests coming up this week. Jamie McShane will be here from the show 1923. Rich Talarico from Key and Peele. And, of course, Bar Band Friday night on Friday. So a fun week on Night Light here. So great to have you with me, folks, wherever you're joining us from. We are broadcasting live statewide from beautiful downtown Green Bay, especially beautiful. Was it still warm out?
Yeah.
Sort of?
Yes.
Getting a little colder? Okay. But a gorgeous night here in the state of Wisconsin. What better way to celebrate good weather than to sit inside and listen to the radio, folks, and talk about the things that make us happy, like movies and TV, and a really cool new business that my current guest created. Chad Franker is here. He's a Marinette native. The business is called Meals with I wrote it down. Oh, Meals with a Friend. Chad, I got lost because I wrote my note down here. It's a meal with a connection.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All right. Tell us about Meals with a Friend in case people are just joining us.
Okay, well, Meals with a Friend is where we pair volunteers with people who, or families that are worried about their loved ones, and they're just missing that connection piece because, as the pandemic has shown, loneliness and isolation is the silent pandemic. No one really talks about it.
Interesting.
But it's like blaring in your eyes, and people still don't talk about it. Like they don't talk about how depressed they are or sad they are. And
Yeah.
all they need to do is just talk to someone and interact.
Right. And you have an interesting, in this package you haven't quite launched the business yet, but you're getting close. You talk about how loneliness affects people's cardiovascular and neurological makeups.
Yes.
Explain that a little bit. That's fascinating.
Well, okay, so loneliness and isolation. They did a study. They did a study in the University of Michigan, and they did a 6-year longitudinal study where they showed that it's equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
How is that possible? That's insane.
Well, ask the researchers. I mean,
I know you didn't do the research.
No, but
that's amazing though.
Yeah, and
so 15 just from loneliness. So here's what I think this is so great, and this is why I wanted to have Chad on the show, because there are so many lonely people out there that you don't know about because they're lonely. Yeah,
yes.
they're not out there. They're not putting themselves out there. Let me ask you this, though, Chad. I don't know if you thought about this. Like, you pair people up together.
Yep.
What if they sit down and try to make a connection through a meal? It's called Meal with a Friend.
Yep.
What if a fist fight breaks out? Do you anticipate anything like that? Two people throwing down?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it almost happened between us, right?
Were you going to take a swing at me when you walked in here? I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
sure. So, but anyways.
You're still with someone, though. It's still not loneliness, so that's good.
No,
Okay.
but, and we try to pair, because we're so new at this. I mean, we'll eventually create a website, website that people can log in and where they can actually say, hey, I want to have a meal with someone who plays, who's an outdoorsman, or have a volunteer.
Like they have something in common.
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
A common thread. And the other service that we provide is like a wellness check. And a wellness check is something where like the person goes into their house and they just make sure that everything is kosher and they're not gonna like do any trip hazards or anything that's gonna be problematic in the future.
What was there something that gave you this idea? Like something that you obviously. Is there something that put this on the map for you? Like you said, I have to do something about this. Like, when did you notice so many lonely people to the point where you thought this would be a good program?
Well, my TBI happened when I was 16, and
okay, let's stop you right there. Let's talk about that, because that's the second time you brought that up. I remember this because Chad and I have mutual family friends. You were a really good athlete in high school. You were a good student. You come from in Marinette, there are a lot of Frankers are synonymous with being good athletes. And you were one of those. You had a traumatic brain injury when you were snowmobiling, correct? Yes. All right. So talk about that, how that affected you and changed your whole life.
Well, okay. So I was January 28th of 2004. I was hit by a truck, and I was put into a drug-induced coma for 6 weeks and spent 120 days in the hospital as an inpatient. But the battle doesn't end there. I went my whole high school career. I was still doing physical therapy, occupational therapy, and I mean, to this very day, I still bust my butt every day doing something. Yeah, I mean, I went to spin class today at the Y.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and
I just want to say, all right, I want to say too, for those of you listening, I don't know Chad that well, but I see him around town and I see him substitute teaching. And you went, like you said before, and you got your degree in psychology. Like, this did not, you're just tenacious. Like, you have a zest for life. I see how hard you work at the gym. And now when I saw you in the grocery store and you told me about this new business, I thought, this is great. We have to talk about this. So have you, because of your accident, experienced loneliness? Did that change your life, as you said?
Because I have a physical disability. My left side is partially paralyzed. And when I say partially paralyzed, it's like I can move it, but I don't have fine dexterity movement.
Okay.
And so I'm still recovering, but
Okay.
I mean, it's been 21 years. So being a popular kid and then like the whole stages of like that honeymoon phase of the accident, people were all wanting to interact with me and stuff. That was like my whole high school. And then when the day after graduation and all the parties ended, where was Chad's friends? They were nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, so yeah, and then I went to college and still nothing happened. No new. I mean, there have been a few. I mean, so don't get that. Don't misconstrue that idea. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, like you said, Mike Corwin, he's fantastic,
Yeah.
and like unique people who see past my inability are people who who help me help them.
Right.
Yes, and I mean, yeah.
So I think that's great. So what you want to do, my guest, by the way, is Chad Franker. He has a new business called Meals with a Friend. It's a great business that will provide wellness checks and emotional support to lonely people. He has dealt with loneliness in his own life and came away wanting to help others. And I think that's so great. He says loneliness affects people cardiovascularly and neurologically. People who are lonely enough, it can have the same effect, according to a study at University of Michigan, as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. How close are you to launching this? Does it take a lot of money to start a business like this, Chad?
I mean, with the lawyer fees and stuff, yes.
Because of their insurance things, if you're going to go into someone's home.
and
that kind of-
LLC
okay.
and stuff,
Gotcha.
and to get everything, you have to get a lot of volunteers.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, and you have to get a functional website.
Okay.
And I don't have either of them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But I have like a makeup of that. Like,
Okay.
So I have ideas and a start, but not like a functional website.
Okay.
Or
how are you? Do you have people helping? Like, are you business savvy? I'm not. I've tried to create businesses in the past. I haven't been very good at it. How are you with those skills? You got a nice packet here. I mean, you got a lot of great information. You obviously know what you're doing.
Well, I know I'm very resourceful, so
okay.
I know how, and I'm not lazy, so
right.
I know what to do. I know how to get things done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when do you think this will be up? And what if people, if they want to volunteer or if they want to help you get the business up and running, how can they find you?
Well, they can search on Facebook, Meals with a Friend.
Okay.
Meals with a Friend.
Meals with a Friend. Okay.
Yes.
On Facebook.
Yep.
It helps. You're hoping to build stronger communities.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. And you're hoping to do it one meal at a time. I love that. And breaking bread together is like the foundation of community in a lot of ways, right? You talk, it's social. So how can, if people wanted to volunteer, I assume when you go to people and you ask them for money or help or setting up the LLC or whatever it is, you want to tell them, hey, I've got so many people here. I've got 100 volunteers ready to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something they can sign up for on Facebook?
Totally.
Okay.
And that's what I want to do with get a website, a functional website that can maintain that load and keep the data of like the clients and because we're dealing with humans.
Yeah.
So they have like everyone, they have wants and they have things that they don't want, and so keeping track of that all would be anyone who has like experience with that would be very helpful talking in.
Okay.
Yep.
So if I told you I expect this business to be operational in 3 months, and we set a date for you to come back on the show and say, Pete, my business is a go.
Yes.
Thank you for cracking the whip.
Yep.
Not that you need it, but would that help? I mean, are there people in Marinette that are helping you with this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, like Tim Stouse and I meet with a philanthropist at a company that Mr. Tom Baraboo set me up with.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's
Tim Stouse has got a ton of money. We should encourage him just to give you a blank check, I think.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if he's listening.
Yeah, he should be. But I mean,
here's what we'll do, Conrad. Let's do this. We can do our part, I think, tomorrow night on the show. We do a question every night.
Yep.
Maybe our question tomorrow night should be, what person would you want to have a meal with?
Yeah.
What lonely person in your life, or even if you see
Yes.
someone on TV that you think is lonely, I think that could be a great. Who have you done this? I assume you've done this on your own just to get it going. Have you met with other people who you could see are lonely, and how did that go over?
well, I met with my. So I met with clients and
You seem like you didn't want to say someone's name because you didn't want to.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
that's totally
HIPAA
fine.
and stuff. So
Sure, okay.
So, they love it. I mean,
nice.
I mean, they were born in the late in the Depression and stuff.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
so they're not really aware of their. I don't know. I mean,
It's a different generation,
Yeah, it's
right? Like
different
they're not going to
generation.
ask for help. They're just
Yes.
going to sit there and be lonely, as
Yes,
opposed to
yes.
because
And
they
then-
associate that with
yeah,
toughness. Probably, or
they
something.
don't know how to help themselves.
Yeah.
And I mean,
What if I go in to have dinner with a friend, a meal with a friend, and they just start yelling at me?
well then
What do I do?
you
Throw the mashed potatoes at them, or
no
what?
no you can leave. I mean, this is all volunteer based.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we would. I mean, because hopefully both would be civil enough to realize that we are gonna need something to do.
Right.
Yep.
I'm totally kidding anyway. You know I wouldn't do that. And sign me up. All right, we're going to be right back. We've got a couple more minutes. Chad's going to help us close the show down. We'll read some text, and we'll do that in just a couple minutes. It's so great to have you with me on this Monday night on Night Light with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
This is the talk of Green Bay, WGBW. Ready? While the teams get ready to choose their top draft pick, you can help Mino and the Mayor choose their top craft pick.
Northeast Wisconsin is home to amazing breweries, wineries, cideries, and distilleries, and we need your help picking the best.
We've drafted 10 of our favorites, but which local craft beverage creator will go to number 1? That's up to you. Top craft pick creators include Fifth Ward Brewing Company in Oshkosh, New Denmark Brewing, Duck Creek Distillery and Winery in Denmark, and Captain's Walk Winery in Green Bay. Vote for your favorite now by logging on WGBW.FM and click on Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick. When you vote, you'll enter a random drawing to win $250 in gift cards from participating craft creators. Don't wait. Voting ends Friday, April 18th. Log on WGBW.FM and click on Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick and vote right now. Mino and the Mayor's Top Craft Pick, drafting Northeast Wisconsin's finest one sip at a time.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. Wisconsin's next major election is already here. The race for state Supreme Court is ramping up with just a few weeks to go before the April 1st general election. Much like the race 2 years ago, this will determine the balance of power on the court. If Susan Crawford wins, the court remains in liberal control. If Brad Schimmel wins, the court flips back to a right-wing majority. But there are a number of differing dynamics from the race in 2023. That race, won by Janet Protasewicz, was the culmination of a years-long effort for liberals to win control of the court. Now they're playing defense to keep that majority. This also begins a run of 6 years in a row with a race for Wisconsin Supreme Court on the spring election ballot. Because of which justices will be up in coming years, if Crawford wins this year, the court will likely remain in liberal control until at least 2028. Find more bigger picture analysis.
All right, welcome back. Doesn't feel like a Monday, does it, Conrad?
I mean, yeah, it feels nice because it was warm outside, so it doesn't feel like a trapped Monday.
It's not as sucky as the usual Monday,
Yeah.
I guess. Is
Not a cold Monday.
I'm saying, exactly. Chad Franker is here. He has a new business called Meals with a Friend. It's just a great idea to help combat loneliness, build community, do wellness checks, emotional support for people who need it. He has a website called Meals with a Friend on Facebook. Check that out. If you're interested in helping Chad in any way, being a volunteer, writing a blank check, whatever, find him on Facebook and reach out to him, because this is just a phenomenal idea. And we've set a date. We're going to do this. Probably in about 3 months, we'll have you back, and I will expect your business to be up and running and you to be the CEO.
Well, I'm already the CEO.
You're already
so,
the CEO.
Yeah, and the
Exactly. How is are you, like, you're such a social guy. Would you consider yourself a lonely person right now, Chad, or?
Well, before I started this business, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I did my normal routine. I saw people like working out and stuff, but I still felt lonely. I mean,
Yeah.
I went home to my apartment and who was there to greet me? No one. I mean, so that's what I feel like I'm helping combat.
Right.
Giving something for other people to look forward to.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's so amazing because you come from a good family. You know, you're loved and you have a family around you, extended and immediate, but still you can't be around your family all the time, just like most people can't. And a lot of people probably are going home to an empty apartment or an empty house. So, and I'll say even like I knew who you were, but I didn't think you knew who I was. So like I'd see you at the gym and I'd nod if I saw you, but I didn't know if you even knew who I was. So I didn't want to be that guy that just walks around saying hi to everybody when I probably should be, right?
Yeah.
Because you're okay. So, all right, Chad. So what I do with most people who come on the show, I try to find out what they're watching. Where do you find entertainment? This is an entertainment-based show. You said you don't watch a lot of TV.
Nope.
Movies? Do you ever watch movies? Podcasts. Okay, what are you listening to?
Well, the Huberman Lab podcast.
What is it?
The Huberman Lab.
Humorman Lab podcast.
Yes.
Who's that?
Andrew Huberman.
And is it
here.
a comedy podcast?
No, it's all right here. So.
Oh, okay.
So.
What kind of topics does he tackle? How to enhance your immune system?
Yeah, and he's a doctor. And
Dude, does that get boring after a while?
No, I mean, it does a little bit, but.
I mean, we all need a good immune system, but I would think after like an hour of that, you might want to.
And his episodes are like 3 hours long, and I just listen to him when I go down to Green Bay or on my drives.
Okay. How often do you come down here to Green Bay? You're not in school anymore, so.
No, but quite a bit because for my doctors, and so, I mean, every couple of weeks.
Okay. So you were, as I mentioned earlier, you were a good athlete and you played sports. Like a lot of kids in Marinette, you probably played like 4 sports in 1 year. Are you still a sports fan? Do you follow sports?
Yes.
Okay.
Hockey, for sure, because that was my best sport.
Really?
Yep. And side note, I was better than my brother. So there's the caveat there. And
Your older brother?
Yep.
That's Ryan.
Yes.
Okay.
And
would he say the same thing?
No. It's a feud that we have between each other, but
that's cute.
Yeah. And I mean, football, baseball, and hockey is what I played.
Okay. And you still follow sports? Like, are you a Packers, Bucks, Brewers, all those teams?
Yeah.
Badgers?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
What's your favorite team, would you say?
Probably Brewers.
Okay. So I'm going to give you, I just saw the movie Green and Gold about a guy who bets the farm. He literally bets his own farm that the Packers will win the Super Bowl and hopes that the bank will let him keep it because he didn't have any more money. So I think you should check that out.
The Ice Bowl, right?
It was not the Ice Bowl. It was like in the 90s. It was when Favre was quarterback.
Okay.
So it's not that old. But I think you should check it out when you come back on to talk about Meals with a Friend. We can talk about that movie because I know you're a Packer fan.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yes. And I actually have a Brett Favre signed football.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I actually have, like, during my accident, I saw the inside Lambeau Stadium. Like,
like a tour?
Yeah.
Oh,
but,
nice.
but like in deep from Red Batty. He was the Packers athletic trainer at that time.
Okay.
Yep.
Was he helping you through your injuries or whatever?
No, he.
Okay.
Because it was Mark Hewson who was a trainer at there and stuff.
Is Mark Hewson? Isn't he the guy that's on with Mino and the Mayor?
Yep.
Yeah, he was at the party the other day.
He was?
So do you know Mark?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. We should get Mark on the show, by the way. I don't think he liked me personally, but I'd still like to invite him on.
Sounds good.
He was really avoiding me at the party.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
It was that look you had in your face.
Chad, thank you so much for coming down. You drove all the way down here to be on the show. I really appreciate that. I wish you luck with this business. I think it's great. I think it's just a beautiful idea, and I hope you're incredibly successful with it.
Thank you very much, Pete.
You're welcome. All right, that's Chad Franker. Check out Meals with a Friend on Facebook. You can sign up, volunteer to have meals with another person who might be lonely, or help Chad out business-wise if you have business skills or a blank check or whatever. But he's a great guy, and good luck with the business. I'd also like to thank Mariah Gates, who, go ahead. You got about 15 seconds.
I have a website too, mealswithafriend.com.
Mealswithafriend.com.
Yes.
Okay.
And because it's a startup website, so
Okay.
I mean it's in the process of getting going. So
Okay. Do you want a picture of me for the website, Chad?
always.
All right, very good. Thank you also for all your texts and all the talk about chips. You can't go wrong with that. Tomorrow night, it's Tuesday, but it won't feel like a Tuesday if you join us. I promise that. It's Pete Schwaba with Nite Lite on behalf of the lovable producer, Conrad. Good night, Wisconsin.
Don't take me to time.